Okay, here we go. That's my first trial at the gavel here. Well, welcome to meeting number 24 of the House of Commons Standing Committee of Government Operation and Estimate, OGGO. Today we will be here from the President of the Treasury Board and official regarding the subject matter of Supplementary Estimate A 2022-2023. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of November 25th, 2021. Members who are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. Regarding the speaking list, the committee clerk and I will do the best we can to maintain a consolidated order of speaking for all members, whether participating virtually or in person. I would like to take this opportunity to remind all participants to this meeting that screenshots or taking photos of your screen is not permitted. Given the ongoing pandemic situation and in light of the recommendation from public health authorities, as well as the directive of the Board of Internal Economy on October 19, 2021, to remain healthy and safe, the following is recommended for all those attending the meeting in person. Anyone with symptoms should participate by Zoom and not attend the meeting in person. Everyone must maintain 2-meter physical distance. Whether seated or standing, everyone must wear a non-medical mask when circulating in the room. It's recommended in the strongest possible term that members wear their mask at all times, including when seated. Non-medical mask, which provides better clarity over clothing mask, are available. Clothing mask over in the room. Everyone present must maintain proper hand hygiene by using the hand sanitizer at the room entrance, committee room, or clean before and after meeting. To maintain this, everyone is encouraged to clean the surfaces such as the desk, chair, and microphone with provided disinfectant wipes when vacating or taking a seat. As the substitute for the chair that is on his way, I will be enforcing these measures for the duration of the meeting, and I look forward to Chair arriving here as soon as possible to assume. I thank you very much, and I thank members in advance for this cooperation. I would like to welcome the President of the Treasury Board and her colleagues. I invite you to make your opening remarks. I believe you have 5 minutes. Minister, the floor is yours, and welcome to our committee once again.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'd like to thank you for having invited me once again to appear before the committee and to discuss Supplementary Estimates A 2022-23, which you've all received, I'm sure. Today, I am accompanied by an extraordinary team, senior officials from Treasury Board Secretariat, Annie Boudreau, Assistant Secretary, Expenditure Management Sector, Karen Cahill, Assistant Secretary and Chief Financial Officer, Marie-Chantal Girard, Senior Assistant Deputy Minister, Employee Relations, on the line, Monia Lae, Assistant Controller General, Financial Management Sector, and Samantha Tattersall, Assistant Controller, General Acquired Services, and Paul Wagner, Assistant Deputy Minister, Strategy and Transformation.
Transparent and accountable government means ensuring that parliamentarians and Canadians know how public funds are being invested on their behalf. And this is why, in addition to estimates documents, we continue to make use of reporting tools such as GC Infobase and the Open Government Portal. Now, these tools allow users to easily see the authorities approved by Parliament. Et j'aimerais maintenant parler du budget supplémentaire des dépenses.
And I'd now like to talk about main estimates A 2022-23. The main estimates provide information on needs and additional spending, needs that were not adequately defined when the budget, or rather, the main estimates were tabled. And in this budget, the government is asking Parliament to approve expenditures of $8.8 billion over 26 organizations to deal with questions that are important to the Canadian people. The supplementary estimates also show that legislative expenditures are provided are $860 million. The main credits in the supplementary estimates are
dollars to the Department of Indigenous Services for costs related for compensation agreements in connection with the First Nations Child and Family Services Program and Jordan's Principles, and for reforms to the programs. $1.4 billion to the Public Health Agency of Canada for the procurement of additional COVID-19 therapeutics to meet the needs of provincial and territorial health systems. $1.2 billion to the Department of Crown Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs for settlements. Et $824 million.
$824 million to the Department of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness for agreements for financial aid in the case of catastrophe. This program provides financial aid to provincial governments and territorial governments and covers costs after catastrophes such as the forest fire in Fort McMurray in Alberta in 2016, the ice storm in New Brunswick in 2017, and the spring floods in Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec. $500 million to the Defense Department for military support to Ukraine in order that the country can defend its sovereignty. $330 million to the Air Transport Security Authority so that we can to support security screening, and $323 million to the Transport Department in order to extend the program of incentives for the purchase of zero-emission vehicles. This will contribute to a greater number of these vehicles being purchased, in particular vans, trucks, and sports utility vehicles.
$1 billion of the planned budgetary spending presented in Supplementary Estimates A relates to Budget 2022 proposals. Additional authorities to implement other Budget 2022 initiatives will be sought in future supplementary estimates once implementation plans are further developed. Mr. Chair, these estimates demonstrate our government's ongoing commitment to improve outcomes for Canadians. We are investing in public health, Indigenous children and families, disaster response and recovery, and the fight against climate change. And we are also supporting international partners who share our democratic values. Ces efforts sont tous d'une importance capitale.
These efforts are all highly important, and I would like to thank members for having invited me here to discuss it at greater length with them. So we are ready to answer your questions. And hello, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you very much for being here today. And I apologize for being late. Unfortunately, flights are the way they are these days, and delays happen. We'll now go into questions with Mr. Macaulay for 6 minutes.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Minister, it's great to have you here. Chair, it's nice of you to show up. Thanks. I have some relatively more simple than items than past. I'll ask the first question, but you can get back to us, please. It is relating to the question I've asked this week and last week about split contracts. An order paper 324 that we did showed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of obviously split contracts. OSFI, the Auditor General's office, very clearly split. If you just get back to us what the government plan is to end the practice of the government violating Treasury Board rules to split contracts. And if you get back to us, it would be wonderful.
Can I already answer part of that? I have that answer for you.
Please.
Yes. So the Treasury Board directive is clear that requirements should not be divided to avoid financial approval thresholds. Policy requirements like contracts, entry limits, regulations, rules, or trade agreement obligations. And all departments are responsible for contracting and establishing, implementing, and maintaining the departmental procurement management framework consisting of processes, systems, and controls. And just so you know, a firm getting multiple contracts is not necessarily indicative of contract splitting.
I'm going to interrupt. The order paper clearly shows otherwise, and we have the proof. But what is the department doing to prevent this? I realize department by department, but this is enforcement of Treasury Board rules, very, very clearly being violated. Same order from the same vendor, split up into 4 different contracts at $24,999 each.
I'll
It's
still,
all the same thing.
under-
But how, maybe get back to us, because I'm not getting the answer, but just.
But I will
how
finish
is it being
if I
enforced then?
can, and
Sure.
Samantha will also complement my answer. Under the directive, when considering a new contract, departments must verify whether a mandatory standing offer or supply arrangement exists that meets their requirements. If one does, the contracting department must use it. And under the TBS directive, it is also mandatory for departments to use standing offers for certain commodities. I will also ask Samantha
Actually,
to
I'm fine.
complement.
I'm running out of time. I'm going to move on. Just quickly, when will we have an updated policy on, for public service, the mandate policy? I think it was due maybe a month ago. Do you know a date that it's going to be provided?
Well, first, thank you for the question, and I know that we are currently reviewing the vaccine mandate for public servants, and I'm hopeful that we will be giving more information very soon.
Do you think within a month, or do you think over the summertime?
Again, I prefer not giving a time frame at this time, but we are studying it at this time, and the review should be done as soon as possible.
Okay. There is money in the sub-As for office accommodations. Do we have enough office space to accommodate all the new people, added people hired during the pandemic?
Well, thank you for asking that question. As you know, we are in a new form of the workplace, with hybrid being part of the solution. I might have one of my colleagues answer more specifically your question, but I would say that at this time we are monitoring, of course, office space for the needs of public servants.
Ms. Gerard, do we have
Chantal?
enough office space for all the new people added?
I need to adapt to the new hybrid format. So, indeed, what departments are doing now, the health and safety guidance allows us to bring people
No, I
back
realize.
in.
Do we have enough office? It's a simple question, straightforward. Do we have
Currently-
enough office space for the new people
Currently,
added?
each deputy minister is bringing people in as per the model and the operational requirements and what they want to test as a hybrid format. So we're not hearing of not enough space
Well,
to
would
do the testing
TPS be
models.
setting a return-to-work policy with, if it's a hybrid, setting like the province does, X amount of days per week in the office and X at home?
Well, thank you again for the question, and we are currently, of course, encouraging public servant departments to
Right, but are we going to
identify
set
the
a
needs that
directive
they
as
have.
opposed to encouraging?
Well,
will we set a directive?
we have sent with the occupational and health safety have the requirements to share, and the department officials are the ones leading on what they need for their own departments. Therefore, we have
It won't be a
policy.
directive from Treasury Board saying,
There is a
return to
directive.
work, X amount of days, or,
The directive on the health and safety is provided in collaboration with our PHAC colleagues. What we are providing is guidance to make sure that it's done in a consistent, equitable way as per collective agreements requirements, but it's to each department, deputy minister, to determine the model that they want to test. And
I'm going to interrupt quickly because I'm just running out of time. There's a lot less in the SUP-As compared to previous years from the budget. Is it just a change in process? Is it a slowing process or implementation issue that so little from the budget is in the SUP-As compared to normal?
I will let Annie give you an answer for that.
Thank you. It is not a change in the process. Last year, subs A, we had a big amount for the COVID-19, so that's why the amount.
But 2 years before, it was a lot more from the budget was in the SUP-As as well, though.
The year before, budget 2020, there was
2
no
years ago.
budget 2020.
No, that's why I said 2 years before.
Yeah, it was budget implementation at that time, so that's why it was 100% included for the 2 years before,
Will you
budget
catch
2020.
up in the SUP-Bs?
Yes, B's and C's, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. We'll now go to Mr. Baines for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Minister for joining us today. My question is, how is your office improving the efficiency of our regulatory system, and why is this important for Canadians?
Well, thank you for the question. And as you know, we're making our regulatory system more effective and less burdensome. And while we maintain our world-class protections for consumers, health, safety, and the environment, at this time, the second annual regulatory modernization bill is in the Senate. It's S6, and it will reduce administrative burden for businesses, facilitate digital interactions with government, and simplify regulatory processes. Also, these changes will support our economic recovery by helping businesses do what they do best, make it easier for Canadians to get things done. And that is what we're currently seeing an S6 in the Senate at this time.
Okay, so the PBOs criticized the misalignment of budget and main estimates. What's your response to that?
Well, thank you for that question. And we talk a lot about this actually around this table where there's confusion about the purpose here. The budget allocates the money in the fiscal framework for initiatives, and the estimate seeks authority from Parliament to spend that money. And the main estimates are meant to approve every item announced in the budget because it takes time to design the implementation plans that ensure good value for taxpayer funds. Now, setting a specific date, I know we've had that conversation before, for presenting the budget and main estimates would unnecessarily restrict the government's flexibility to respond to global and domestic events. Look at what is happening in the war in Ukraine, which, as you know, began on February 24th, just to give you an example. Therefore, new initiatives announced in the budget cannot be sufficiently developed to be included in the main estimates, and consultations are often required to prepare detailed implementation plans for review by Treasury Board, and such consultations are not possible while protecting budget secrecy. Therefore, that is why we are presenting this way, and we're always very open and transparent. As you know, you can have access to many financial reports to better understand how the spending is done through our open government portal.
Thank you. And my next question, how does the government prevent quote, March Madness, unquote, spending where departments try to blow through room in their budgets at the end of the fiscal year?
Well, thank you for that question, and I'm sure members will be interested to know that as departments can't overspend their appropriated limits, keeping some reserve funds until late in the fiscal year is prudent financial management. And a carry-forward process allows departments to use up to 5% of their operating budget or 20% of their capital budget in a future year. Now, the carry-forward process was introduced over 30 years ago following a recommendation by the Auditor General. Therefore, that is how I can explain the question that you just asked. Thank you, MP Baines.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chair, any more time?
Yes, you have 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. So my next question, Bill S6 amends the Canada Land Surveyors Act so that it harmonizes with provincial and territorial law. How will this change reduce regulatory burden and improve efficiency?
Well, again, just to inform you that this annual regulatory modernization bill, helps us to reduce red tape. It helps us to make sure that businesses can function without that red tape that is presented. And I know that we have Karen, who might want to go into the details of those that we are presenting right now that is in the Senate with S6.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. In fact, the Bill S6 will also change paper process to more digital process. It will also enable business innovation through regulatory sandbox, and finally make changes to our zero-emission vehicles. As the Minister was indicating, there is a lot of advantages to the regulatory process as it will enable our business to restart within the economic after pandemic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Baines. We'll now go to Monsieur Lemire for 6 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci pour...
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for welcoming me. I am replacing Julie Vignola, my colleague who couldn't be with us today. Minister Fortier, you are a minister who represents bilingualism. You have wonderful French and wonderful English, and as a Francophone, I find you very easy to understand, but this isn't the case for all civil servants. Most are English-speaking, and new civil servants are also mostly Anglophone. There is a disparity. The proportion of and among senior officials, only 19% are Francophone. The proportion should it not be the same for both? Thank you for your interest in official languages. My mother tongue is French, and I'm very proud of that. And I've had the privilege at Treasury Board as president to be able to work in French with several of our team members who speak both official languages and who are Francophone or Anglophone and who master both languages. More than 40% of civil servants are bilingual. Now, bilingualism means being able to work in both official languages. Now, in our department, and I'll like Marie Chantal share some of our plans, but we're trying to encourage bilingualism and to make ever more positions bilingual ones. There is an obligation for assistant deputy ministers to be able to work in both official languages. These are positions that are bilingual. So there is the will in government to have services available in both official languages. And Marie Chantal may have something to add. Well, yes. The credits, this is identified with respect, the credits are identified having to do with the services that are provided. It is always possible for people to refine their abilities to speak French and to improve it. And with the bill now being considered by Parliament, the government is going to try to increase the number of bilingual employees across the country. Well, I'm happy to hear it, but it seems to me that it's more difficult to get services in French. Some officials have said that things usually take place in English and that Francophones are often ignored and their ability to progress is limited. Francophones tell us that there are two official languages, English and interpretation or translation. And often the subtleties in French cannot always be conveyed properly. So often Francophones are discouraged from speaking. So my question, what explains that Francophones are often not given the same consideration? And why is English always put forward? Are you doing anything to deal with this in different departments? Answer. Well, the government, our government, is making tangible efforts to increase the number of officials who are bilingual. We have efforts in terms of recruitment and filling positions, people who can provide service in both official languages. And something I'm very proud of, we have 200 official languages champions within the civil service. Within the civil service, who are always trying to find means of increasing bilingualism within the various departments in order to make sure services are in both languages. The government is also designing a new framework for linguistic services and bilingual services. So there are various efforts underway under the direction of Treasury Board, but also within departments. I'll allow Marie Chantal to add to what I'm saying. Well, we're trying to reinforce bilingualism. We want to enhance and strengthen bilingualism, and Treasury Board will have greater authority to establish in the Secretariat a way of to ensure that there's oversight of federal institutions. I'm sorry, I may get back to you next hour, but I have another question. You said that you were an open and transparent government. The Privy Council is asking for millions of dollars in a Sup A. For what, Madam Minister? Well, this $28 billion. Well, I don't know if you've seen the blue paper, the blue book that we use. First of all, there is an amount which is set aside for emergency measures. If you give me a second, I'll find the page. It's page 6, I believe. I think that my time is up. I think that you could. It's on page 26. You see the 28 million or billion. It's here. Well, this is 28 million. Well, it's interesting to see this initiative for the regions. Thank you.
Do you have anything further that you'd like to provide the committee? Please, by all means, do that, Mrs. Boudreau. Appreciate that. I will now go to Mr. Johns for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Minister, for being here. We know that COVID-19 still remains present in our communities, and New Democrats and I are continuing to support evidence-based health measures to protect the health of Canadians. And I also encourage Canadians to continue to get vaccine doses that they're eligible for to reduce their risk of severe outcomes. But some of my constituents, as you're aware, have chosen not to be vaccinated and are presently on leave from their jobs, including Canada Post workers, because of federal vaccine mandates. In March, Dr. Tam communicated to the public that the Treasury Board was reviewing federal vaccine mandates. It's been almost 3 months now, and since the public was informed of that review. Now, in my home province, a lot of people are back to work in the public service as well, that this would have affected. Now, I just think I want to underscore that decisions about public health measures should be based on the most current evidence available, and transparency about such decisions is absolutely critical to maintain public confidence. With that in mind, I'm asking you when you anticipate the ongoing review will be completed and when the results will be made available to the public.
Thank you for this very important question. And I do want to start by saying that we, in last fall, knew that we needed to have a fully vaccinated workforce to make our workforce and our work sites more safer, and also making sure communities were safer. And that is why we brought forward the vaccine mandates. And interestingly, we asked employees of the public service at the time to attest to their vaccination status, and they did step up. Almost 99% of employees attested being fully vaccinated. So we are committed, as I will answer your question, to review this policy. We mentioned every 6 months, and we're currently reviewing this policy. We are making decisions and evaluations on what is based on science and the advice, of course, of public health officials. We know that Canada Post's top priority is also to keep its employees and their communities safe while they continue to offer their services to Canadians. And this is why we're reviewing at this time.
We've only got a little bit of time, and you know that. So I think it's urgent that we get some transparency here. It undermines public health when there's not transparency with the public. People have questions. Now, in terms of the Public Health Agency, it's requested $1.4 billion through Vote 1 to procure additional COVID-19 therapeutics. Has the agency sought funding through Vote 1 to Vote 5 to procure a safer supply of controlled substances to reduce drug toxicity deaths and hospitalizations, which we know have accelerated during the COVID-19 pandemic?
So thank you for your question. And as you know, this includes the $1.8 billion, as you said, to support our government's response to the pandemic. $1.4 billion for the Public Health Agency of Canada is to procure additional COVID-19
Asking
treatments.
specific questions about the toxic drug supply crisis and about safer supply. I need a specific answer on that.
The amounts here are not dedicated for the opioid crisis that you are talking about in this here.
Okay, thank you. I'm hoping that you'll come forward with some amounts soon to rapidly scale up safer supply. In terms of the toxic drug crisis that continues to take lives of Canadians each day across all walks of life, you may be aware that legislation has recently been passed in the Ontario legislature to require workplaces that are at risk of a worker opioid overdose to have naloxone kits on site and within the vicinity of a worker trained in their use. Now, naloxone, is a medication that can temporarily reverse the effects of an opioid overdose and allow time for medical help to arrive. Has the Treasury Board conducted an evaluation of the risk of opioid-related overdoses for workers employed within different sectors of the federal public service? And does the Treasury Board have a policy regarding naloxone placement and training in federal workplaces? And if not, will you do that? I've had some political staffers, even from the Liberal Party, that have had opioid and substance use related disorders, and they've cited that this wasn't on site and needs to be.
Before I hand it off on the more Treasury Board policy work, I would like to mention the hard work that you've been doing on this file, and I want to acknowledge that. As you know, our government does understand the urgency of the crisis, and we're moving forward with evidence-based approach to end this worsening situation. As you know, Minister Bennett announced the investments, the comprehensive BC proposal to decriminalize personal possession of small amounts of certain illegal drugs within the province. So I know, I just wanted to mention that is the government's work. I will, though, ask Marie Chantal to specify the Treasury Board question that you have.
So, of course, we promote and foster a safe and healthy workplace. Impairment is prohibited in all federal workplaces. We're working very closely with ESDC labor program.
This is about life-saving medicine. It's like having a fire extinguisher in the room. And I'm just, we've got a drug toxic crisis. 27,000 people are dead. I'm asking you to ensure that we've got life-saving medication in all public workplaces that are federally run. I'm asking you to do that and ensure that that legislation comes forward, that you make that happen.
We're taking notes, and codes of conduct and related policies are updated on as we monitor the situation on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. We'll now go to the second round, and we'll go to Mr. Paul Hughes for 5 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to talk about Quebec Tramways. The Premier had said that the government would be giving $1.2 billion for the tramway project. But in fact, we know that the federal government thought that there weren't enough people who would be using the tramway to justify that amount. So there was something over $100 million that was provided. And then there was supposed to be more money from the Quebec government. There was it went over cost. It was a cost overrun. So given, now, do you see that the people who would use these tramways are the same, or is it more now? Well, we know that construction costs and building costs are increasing everywhere. And the Quebec City Tramway project, its costs have increased. I don't believe my colleagues have any more information than I do, but we can send you a written answer. Well, this was in 2019. You said that there weren't enough people at the time. Are there now? Well, I will ask my colleagues. I will ask my colleague, Minister Leblanc, who's Minister of Infrastructure, who can get you more information. Another subject with the present budget, the main estimate and the supplementary estimates, there is a problem. And that is what we get for the money being spent. We know there are problems with airports, with issuing passports. There is a problem of managing personnel and getting value for our money. Now, it seems we keep spending, and not getting enough for our money. What do you have to say about that? Well, first of all, I think it's important to say that we have had a crisis, an unprecedented crisis, over the past 2 years, and the government had to do things to help all Canadians, workers, business, to get through the COVID crisis. And at the present time, we're looking. Yes, but those are COVID expenditures. I'm talking about spending to help airports, to help passports, to have additional staff for issuing passports. They say there are people who can't work because they haven't been vaccinated. We could have voted for additional items, but it seems that without additional staff, the passport problem won't go away. There has also been directives about what people are getting for their money. And they're talking about a follow-up with employers and assessment of management programs. What has been done? Well, in terms of airports and how many people, the number of people using the airports, we know that in the supplementary estimates, we have over $300 million in order to deal with the problems in airports. This is one of the things being done, and Treasury Board is encouraging the department to Minister, you're asking for money. You're saying we're investing. But at a certain moment in time, it's a question of organization. Let's talk about passports. We know that there is an increased demand, but they weren't really repaired. They're sort of catching up and trying to patch up things. But with respect to management, don't you think there might be things to be done? I mean, it's one thing to invest money, but it's how you use it. Well, I think your question is a good one. And it is important how this money is spent and invested. Since I've been at Treasury Board, we've been getting submissions, and we're trying to see how this money can be best spent. So there's a process that we use, and then we send the money out, money that's been requested. So there is oversight at various levels. I don't know if Marie Chantal can perhaps say a little bit more about this. Well, the directive is still in place. Things are changing, but managing results, that's always important. Every agency leader, every minister have come up with a particular strategy. There's a labor shortage all across the country. And people are saying, is this a problem with the central administration in Ottawa? But it's not. This is countrywide. We're seeing these same problems regionally, a labor shortage. And this is why it's so important to have this strategy in order to link up needs, supply and needs. Thank you.
We will now go to Mr. Housefather for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bonjour, Madame la Ministre. C'est un grand plaisir de vous accueillir ici.
Hello, Madam Minister. It's a pleasure to have you at the committee. I'd like to talk to you about something that's of concern to all of us, and it's something I know you care about, and that's the issue of official languages in Canada. Not only national bilingualism, but we know it's important to support linguistic minorities outside Quebec and in Quebec. There are several concerns which have been raised with respect to official languages. How can Bill C-13 provide more power to Treasury Board to make sure that departments establish real equality between French and English at the federal level? Answer. Well, I think we share the same concern, and thank you for the question and all your work. We've been working at modernizing the Official Languages Act, and all parliamentarians here will be able to help us advance this bill. We want the Official Languages Act to be made even more effective at supporting official languages. There's a decline in French-speaking. There's a decline in French not only in Canada but in Quebec. C-13 will enhance Treasury Board powers with respect to official languages to make sure that federal institutions will be more compliant, have greater oversight. We never did it officially in the past, but now Treasury Board will have the authority to do so. It is really important that we be able to continue our efforts and clarify the role of Treasury Board so that we can increase official languages countrywide. And in the public service itself, respect for official languages is not only an obligation, but it is a priority for our government. It's essential to be able to offer services in both official languages. And obviously, we are resolved to meet our obligations with respect to official languages. Well, as I said to Mr. Lemire, we're going to try to increase the number of positions which will be bilingual positions and to put in place language training programs for public servants. There will also be programs for newcomers to the country. We want to help them speak both official languages. So there are a great many efforts, great investment in this, and we want to show leadership. And it's with the help of all parliamentarians that we will be able to pass this bill. Thank you, Madam Minister.
This committee has delivered a very fulsome report on whistleblowers. And I think it's a priority to all of the members of the committee that the government strengthens policies and processes to support whistleblowers. Can you talk a little bit about what your department is now doing to ensure that that happens?
Yes, thank you. And you know that our government believes that those who disclose serious wrongdoings must be protected. And you know the law provides a secure and confidential process for disclosing serious wrongdoings in the workplace and protection from acts of reprisals. Public servants' disclosures result in an average of 10 findings of wrongdoing every year. And as you know, Canada's whistleblowing law is part of the recourse options that cover harassment, discrimination, labor grievances, and privacy complaints. And our government has strengthened training, monitoring, reporting, and policies on workplace harassment and violence. And Budget 2022, as you all know, funded a review of the Act, which will begin later this year. I'm hopeful that we can launch this later this year. I hope that answers your question, MP Housefather.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chair, do I have any more time, or am I done?
There goes the bell. Perfect timing. Thank you very much. We'll now go to Mr. Lemire for 2.5 minutes.
Faut jamais pas poser de questions dont on veut pas avoir la.
You should never ask questions you don't want an answer to, Madam Minister. It seems that there is no money. There was no money in the main estimates for certain things. There is $4 million that are being allocated to the Commission. I'm afraid that without consulting the people, the government is going to bring in a commission that will be able to challenge Quebec legislation, and that's none of its business. What is the point of this commission? Thank you for your question. And we'll have to go into a little more. I'll have to look at this $4 million in more detail. I'll ask my colleague to answer. Yes, it is $4.3 million in the supplementary estimates A. This comes from the federal budget of 2021, and it has to do with the Commission's operations.
We try to answer in both official languages. So the Minister of Justice mandate letter indicates that the Law Commission will initially focus on issues such as systemic racism in the justice system and advancing reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. Merci.
Ça t'aide?
Merci. Dans le.
Thank you. Now, the $28 million from Treasury Board, there are two lines that I'd like more information on. What is the investigation or into the Emergencies Act, the invocation of this act? What about this commission that's going to be looking into the Emergencies Act? Thank you. The amount of money is to report on this. There was a committee that started in April, but there will be a report. There'll be another one in February. We'll be hiring about 15 people on 15 people have part-time will be able to submit a report by February of next year. Yes, this was one of the things we wanted to do when we passed legislation to get these reports. It's in the legislation, so it's one of our duties to get this done. Thank you very much. Thank you.
2.5 minutes goes by very quickly.
Merci beaucoup.
Mr. Johns, 2.5 minutes.
Minister, this government is increasingly spending money on expensive consultants like Phoenix Pay, while public servants are being offered wage increases that simply just don't keep up with inflation. Do you believe hardworking public servants who've delivered for Canadians throughout the pandemic deserve increases that account for the rising cost of living?
Well, thank you for your question, and I know that this is something that everybody is living right now with the increase of inflation. We know because of many global environmental situations, we are all faced with the...
I know we've only got a little bit of time.
Yes.
Do you believe that they should be getting wage increases that meet the cost of living, the inflation costs that are happening right now?
I believe right now we are actually having conversations during collective bargaining, and that conversation is happening at the table with the Public Servants Alliance, for example, and all the other unions, and I would prefer that conversation happens at that table.
We believe that they should, as New Democrats. Are you committed to reining in outsourcing to ensure Canadians are getting value for services and that we maintain institutional knowledge, skills, and expertise in the public service?
One thing that is really important is that we have a labor shortage right now, and we have a skill shortage to deliver many of the government services. And one way to be able to do that is to go find contractual work to help us deliver those services. I can tell you public servants are really stepping up and also getting the training necessary to bring those skills. So we need to have that balance, and that is what we're focusing on to make sure we deliver services to Canadians the right way.
Are you committed to creating clear guidelines so that outsourcing is only pursued as a last resort? And just, I know you're going to answer, and I've only got a bit of time left, so I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank your staff, especially the public service, for the important work they do.
Well, I want to echo that because I know that public servants are really delivering for Canadians, especially, as you know, in the last 2 years. We do have a lack of certain skills, especially in the IT and our digital transformation. For example, Next Gen that we're bringing forward, we are contracting with with contracts with businesses that are helping us and public servants to have the next pay system that will work for Canadians.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to Mr. Lobb for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. One question I have is in April, the PBO requested some costing in regards to Bill C-13, and to date has not received any information from the Treasury Board. It was a formal letter, a formal request. Is there a reason why, when can the PBO expect some costing information on Bill C-13?
Well, as you probably heard, the minister responsible for official languages, she was very clear on the fact that we are on a path to adopt, I hope, C-13 very soon, and then we will be able to have the necessary funds to be able to see how this new law will be implemented. And I believe that will be probably at that time that we'll be able to evaluate how we will implement the new C-13,
so is that,
hopefully very soon.
Just something caught my ear there. So is that something, because it sounded to me like it hasn't been costed and you're going to implement it and then cost it, or did I just mishear that? It seems to me you would cost it first and then implement it, but maybe I'm wrong.
Again, there are some costs associated in developing C-13, in imagining how this will be implemented. I can maybe ask Monia Lae, who is probably has the specifics on
Minister,
the PBO's
it's okay,
request.
thank you. We'll maybe follow up at a later time and see if that information can't find its way there. June 1st, there's an article in the news talking about a privacy breach for hundreds of employees claiming Phoenix damages. And I'm just wondering, in a case like that, does the Treasury Board report that breach to the Privacy Commissioner? Do they proactively disclose that to the Privacy Commissioner? And on what date did they disclose that to him?
Thank you for that, and it was very unfortunate that administrative error was done, and yes, it was reported to the Privacy Commission.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes,
and some days, I think probably by now, and I understand part of your role as the Minister for the Treasury Department is to work with your colleagues in a collaborative way and your cabinet ministers and help them streamline their operations, to provide some guidance on that. One, there's a couple of topics that continually come up in the news. They come up in question period, and it's in regards to processing of passports and processing of immigration applications. And I'm wondering if you've had any conversations, your departments have any conversations with Minister Gould or Minister Fraser on opportunities to speed those two up and perhaps hire more employees. Can you tell me about that?
I can tell you, yes, that there is a collaboration with the Treasury Board, of course, and my colleagues on how to implement different the money. The investment for different projects. With Passport, I know that I've had many conversations with Minister Gould to find those solutions to increase, for example, the number of public servants returning to Service Canada workplace, to increase and open the hours late at night and on Saturdays. There has been collaboration.
Now,
with,
in regards, just to say to passports, how many employees have been added to try and catch up with the backlog in applications?
I don't have the number per se, but I can find it. I don't know why. I think I have 600 in mind, but I will get you the exact number of resources that were in human resources and also in capacity for the passport delivery.
In your role, in your mandate letter, I think it talks about streamlining the application, or not the hiring process. So how long does it currently take to hire an employee, and what is the goal? Like, what is your goal for length of time to hire an employee?
So I don't think it's a one size fits all approach in recruiting employees. It depends on which level it is. If it's
let's just say somebody that would process passports. Would there be a time?
Well, again, as we know, we're in a difficult situation right now because there's a surge in demands. I understand that Minister Gould found ways with her department, of course, to get some contract workers to help into processing passports. So there are probably part-time workers that are coming to supplement and help in getting those passports done. There are, of course, then recruitment done for the public servant full-time in for example, Passport Canada. That's another process. I know that probably Marie-Chantal will be able to complement that answer in the next hour if you wish.
Right. And thank you for that. And we'll now go to Mr. Kazmierczuk for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and Ministers, welcome again to the OGGO committee. It's always a good day when you and your team join us at OGGO to testify, and thank you so much for your thoughtful responses and insights this afternoon. Treasury Board plays an important role in gender and diversity impacts reporting across government. We know that GBA Plus is important really to identify gaps, for example, in how diverse populations access, for example, key programs. And it's critical for us to design better programs that have a bigger impact. And of course, we know that during COVID as well, too, the pandemic has only really accentuated the discrepancies, for example, amongst women and diverse populations as well, too. So I wanted to ask you, Minister, what is your reaction to the recent Auditor General report on Gender-Based Analysis Plus?
So as you know, we are committed of making sure that we leave no one behind. And this is where Gender-Based Analysis Plus policy development helps us to focus on how do we make sure that everybody's considered into our different services and programs that we offer. And as you know, it is now mandatory to have GBA Plus analysis in all budget proposals, Treasury Board submissions, and also MC, so memoranda to Cabinet. And we're investing over $200 million in disaggregated data and research. And that helps us also to better understand how we can bring forward those tools that we have through Treasury Board, for example, or through budget proposal to make sure we represent and leave nobody behind. And also, if I can say that according to the OECD, Canada is a global leader in gender budgeting. And we know that our work is not complete. There's always a possibility to improve. And I know that my colleagues around the table, and especially Minister Ian, is really providing some leadership to improve the GBA Plus analysis. And of course, the Auditor General did a very important study, and her report gives us recommendations on how we can improve further, and we welcome these recommendations. And of course, across government, from policy design to program delivery, we will be using her recommendations to improve GBA Plus. One more thing I'd like to add is that, as you probably know, I had the privilege in my former position as Associate Minister of Finance and Minister of Middle Class Prosperity to develop a framework for quality of life framework, as you know, and that is another tool to make sure that we don't only take the GDP indicator as our budget decision or how we create those programs and services, but we look at all of the outcomes and make sure we represent well-being into how we will be providing services to Canadians.
I appreciate that answer, and I'm glad that you pointed out that Canada really is an OECD leader. Only about half of the OECD countries actually incorporate GBA Plus into their budgeting and policies. Even fewer are legislated to do so, and I believe Canada is one of a handful of countries that do that. So I really appreciate that you highlighted our leadership role in that globally. I wanted to now switch gears a little bit, and we know that racialized individuals, especially Black Canadians, are among those who are really disproportionately impacted by mental health struggles due to their lived experiences of systemic racism, for example. Could you speak to what the government is doing to support the mental health of Black public servants in government?
Well, thank you. And as you probably know, in my mandate letter, I am working, and our government is committed to supporting a more inclusive workplace for Black public servants. And as you probably know, also in Budget 2022, over $3.7 million is dedicated for Black-led engagement, design, and establishment of a mental health fund for Black federal public servants. That will be a game changer for our public service. And we are having consultations with Black employees, experts, and mental health service providers that will inform the design of this new fund. And the engagement process is expected to be completed this fall, winter, hopefully, and will inform options for implementation. And it will also complement other measures we've taken, like legislation, support and development programs, outreach, and, as I said earlier, disaggregated data. I said it. I didn't make
Thank you, Minister. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I have so much difficulty with that word.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you. We've now finished our second round, and the Minister's been with us a little over an hour, and I appreciate the Minister being here, as we've always have. I've learned over the last 24 hours that we have issues with weather, mechanical issues, and equipment problems, and personnel issues that sometimes change time frames, et cetera, and timelines. So if the Minister wishes to stay with us for a little bit longer, we're more than happy to have her here. We will only be going one more round, which will be roughly 25 minutes, but recognizing the Minister's time, if she wants to stay or not. But I would appreciate that.
I'm sure I'll come and see you again very soon for supplement estimates B. But thank you very much for having me again today, Chair. Thank you.
Sir, and now we'll just go into our third and final round and go with Mr. McCauley for 5 minutes.
Yay. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around. Would you, Bill, provide us a breakdown? I've asked previously about this for the money in C8, C10, and the sub-Cs for the duplicated funding requests for the rapid tests. Just provided for the committee. I don't need it right now. In the subs, there's money, $823 million for public safety and emergency preparedness, $823 million. In the sub-As, it mentions for disasters, et cetera, over the last 10 years. Curious why it's in the sub-As now for items going back 10 years. What would it be addressing?
Thank you for the question. This is based on requests that we receive from provinces and territories. We need to get the supporting documents in order for us to do our due diligence. And we...
But you haven't got the supporting documents, but you're asking Parliament to approve almost $1 billion, but the Department itself doesn't have the supporting documents. Are you not putting the cart before the horse, asking for the money, and you don't have the supporting documents for the ask?
I'm explaining you why 10 years. So once we have all the information, the department goes to Treasury Board with the submission, and we are able to...
So you do have it all?
To do, yeah, exactly.
There's $26 million that's included, I think it's in page 8, operation of the PM's residence. I think it's in the page 8 of the legislation. Can you break down what that $26 million is for? How much is for day-to-day operations? How much is for any upgrades?
You're talking about supplementary estimates A?
Yep, sub-A's. It's in the legislation that came out to us for the spending authorities. It came out today.
Okay, I will need to check and come back to you on this one.
Okay. The whistleblower, there's money in the budget for the whistleblower, but it's not made in the sub-pays. Do you know how far along Treasury Board is in developing that for that program? And then just on a second question, a similar issue is there's been a long-standing issue with the access to information problem that we have ongoing. I notice oddly that we've doubled the work of the Information Commissioner. The government has dumped acting Privacy Commissioner on her as well. I'm wondering, where did that idea come from when we're drowning with ATIPs right now that we throw her an anchor by adding more work to her? And when the results of the review will be made public?
I'll turn to my colleague Paul Wagner for that second part, but on the Whistleblower Act, yes, we are working on the reform. What we're developing is a review. We're doing the research and preparing for the consultations. So if they're not in the A, it's because they haven't actioned the funding.
Yeah.
So when they start,
When
they
will we
will
see it?
action. B or C, but it's happening in the coming months.
Okay.
Paul, maybe you want to take part two?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. So the Privacy Commissioner, the Information Commissioner taking over as an interim measure while the process is completed to appoint a new Privacy Commissioner, and that's seen as an interim measure through to October of this year. And for your second question regarding the report on the access to information, that'll be tabled before the end of this calendar year.
Oh, so the next calendar year, but not Parliament. Do you know when that will be? Because it's, again, we're kind of in a crisis right now with our access to information and public's access, Parliament's access to documents. It seems like a real lack of urgency around it.
So I don't have a specific date on the publication, but what I can say is that there's work underway while that report is being put in place or finalized. Work to support departments. We've just completed a request for proposal, and we have contracts in place now, so departments can actually avail themselves of a common ATIP solution, which will allow obviously departments to have common processes, speed up the work on that. We actually have an online request system that's going to be going live in the coming weeks. And so we're not simply waiting for the report before we act. We're acting on things that we know are the most critical while that report is being drafted.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. We'll now go to Mrs. Thompson for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Speaker, and welcome. Sorry, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I think I'm back in the House. I just want to touch on something a couple of things that you spoke about earlier, and just if you want to just elaborate and provide more detail, if that's possible. The first is around the return to workplace. If you could just reference a little more specifically the program and the work that you're doing around the return to work.
With pleasure. Actually, a lot is going on at this current time because the health and safety guidance was updated last May 12th and allows us now to return to full occupancy of the buildings, with, of course, ensuring that we apply all of the necessary preventive measures, such as wearing masks if you don't have the 2-meter distance, or hand washing, sanitizing, and so on and so forth. So now that we have a green light to return to occupancies, deputy heads are currently assessing and testing various models of flexible work because there's more than one approach, and we know that for an employer such as the Government of Canada, who's the largest but also extremely diverse and complex in its operation, one model won't address the needs and won't allow us to provide the quality of service to Canadians that is required. So because we're all starting new on this endeavor of flexible workplace, we are currently testing The Office of the Chief Human Resource Officer is gathering some data, information, providing useful tools to departments to undertake those models. And in the coming months, we'll assess the successes, the best practices. So if all goes well, let's hope in the fall we can benefit from those lessons learned and give ourselves a more consistent pace, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you. And then again, circling back to another point, how, if you could speak about the promoting equity, diversity, and inclusion that what the office is doing to ensure that public service accurately reflects diversity in the country, and how we are addressing barriers for underrepresented populations.
Thank you for the question. So we're doing again, on that front, there's a whole suite of initiatives that is currently underway across departments. We have developed mentorship programs. We have developed also recruitment strategies to make sure that we actually attract but also retain the talents in the public service. We also work very closely with I have the acronym PCO, the Privy Council Office, thank you, on the call to action on anti-racism, equity, and inclusion. And in Budget 22, you have a $3.7 million over 5 years announcement to make sure that we also undertake the consultations that we were referring to with various groups, but particularly with Black employees. We are bringing forward an approach that the communities have asked for, which is nothing for us without us. So we're putting in place consultation and engagement with the communities that will put them at the heart of the solutions that are being brought forward by the administration. And finally, I would like to also speak to the Nothing Without Us initiatives by the Accessibility Office to hire 5,000 new public servants with disabilities by 2025. And I could go on, but I will stop here.
Thank you. So the budget included new measures to find efficiencies in government, the strategic policy review. Can you explain what that work will do?
Thank you for the question. So we have two streams of work under the strategy policy review. The first stream is to look at ongoing programs, ongoing processes. And the second, as indicated in Budget 2022, it's to be able to find efficiencies from post-COVID era, from real property, from travel, from working from home, and we'll be able to provide an update in Budget 2023.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to Mr. Lemire for 2.5 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. Now, you're free to decide who's best placed to answer. In the supplementary estimates, they talk about $147 million, credit 1A, for Newfoundland and Labrador in order to participate in the Hibernia offshore oil project. How will this grant be part of the net benefits of this offshore project? How will it allow the Canadian government to take care of the environment and to ensure carbon neutrality? Thank you for the question. But with respect to your question about carbon neutrality, I'll have to get a written answer to you. Thank you. That would be greatly appreciated. And quickly, with respect to NextGen, which is now being tested, the minister said they were just getting in touch with managers. What about the new pay system? Can we expect there will be care taken so that we won't have a disaster like Phoenix? Well, I'll answer briefly. because right now people are trying to learn from the Phoenix episode. We are committed to paying employees properly with the fewest errors possible. But you have to recognize that in an organization as big as the federal government, there will be errors. But we want to deal with systemic problems. We've tried to learn the proper lessons. We're in touch with providers who are trying to see how such a complex organization can streamline its pay system the most possible. Because we had a system that we were kept adding to. There were accretions and levels of complexity. If you don't mind, I have a last question. Were the unions consulted in the process? Absolutely. And we had a union management. We have a union management group that meets regularly, and they are helping us work on the streamlining. Thank you.
Don's for 2.5 minutes.
Well, thank you. The Department of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness is requesting $823 million under Vote 5 for the Disaster Financial Assistance Arrangements Contribution Program that was announced in Budget 2021. Now, this funding, it states, would be used to address costs incurred by provinces and territories for large-scale natural disasters that occurred over the last decade. The eligible expenses include emergency services, security measures, repairs to public buildings and infrastructure, cleanup, as well as businesses and farms. And I think it is important. We've seen the government help out with forestry and agriculture with climate mitigation and disasters, but done nothing for fishers. And they shut down 60% of the fishery on the north coast in British Columbia and abandoned those fishers. Why is fishing not included in this fund? And will it be?
Thank you for your question. I don't have the answer why fisheries is not included there. We'll see what was included in Budget 2021 policy decision. I cannot answer that question.
I just want to relay that it is a warming ocean that's having a huge impact on wild salmon. Lee Sylvie, a constituent of mine from Parksville, has no EI, no eligibility for EI. These fishers have been abandoned. They need help from the Treasury Board. The Department of Citizenship and Immigration is requesting $247 million under Vote 1 for operating expenses, grants and contributions for immigration, settlement measures, temporary accommodations, and income support for Ukrainians. This funding would be used for initial costs of the special immigration measures for Ukrainian refugees, including chartered flights, temporary hotel accommodations, application processing, settlement, and transitional financial support programs. Can you talk about how many Ukrainians would benefit from this funding, and also would additional funding be allocated to Afghan refugees?
If you look in the document, there is an amount for Afghan refugee. If you give me 1 minute, I'll be able to find it. We have amount for Ukrainians, but we have also amounts for Afghan refugees under subs A. Okay. It's for both.
How about this? How many Ukrainian refugees has Canada welcomed since the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine?
I have the information. Okay, here we go. So as of June 1st, 2022, the department has received over 278,000 Canada-Ukrainian authorization for emergency travel applications and approved over 127,000 of them.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Boudreau, if there's any other information that you feel you need to supply in that answer, if you provide that to the clerk, it would be appreciated. Thank you. We'll now go to Mr. Paul Hoos for 5 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. I see my question, and I have my question. They say that the Professional Institute says that hybrid work does not meet expectations. I don't know whom among you would like to answer. Doesn't meet expectations? What are the expectations? Well, it was simply that there was a guideline about results, value for money. Well, we provide the basic orientation, and we ask people to test various formulas and models. We want things to be more flexible about work. It also depends on their mandate and their functioning. Within a union unit, there are people who may work in different departments, and if some employees have to work with a security that is higher than someone else's, well, one or the other might be able to work remotely, and another might not. We can't have a wall-to-wall policy, so each department has to decide on what formula works best. Well, I'd like to know for the committee, when we were at the beginning of COVID, we saw a graph with the number of people who would be working virtually, etc. I'd like, not today, but in writing, I'd like to know how many people are working virtually, how many have returned to work, because I know everything is quite decentralized, but it would be a good idea to know how many people are working from home. I'm sorry I don't have that information. I have information on how many employees are vaccinated, but there are tests underway. We're testing various formulas, work formulas. But if we say, well, today, can we get a report on this? Well, it depends on each department has to provide the information. So it's not you and Treasury Board who have the information. You're not responsible for knowing where employees are working. No, it's the managers in each of the departments who decide on what working model will be used and what is most effective at delivering the department's mandate. So, which department in which department do they have the most virtual work going on? Well, it depends. You have some people in an office who have a laptop, but other people might be working, for example, at customs or at the border.
The question is, it goes back to some of the stuff with Mrs. Fortier, but it is regards to immigration and with passports. Has the Treasury Board worked with these departments to identify how many workers they are short to get caught up? What is the number, and when do they expect to get caught up?
I don't have that number, but the head of that department facing some specific labor shortages in specific regions can work with the Public Service Commissions to develop a targeted strategy based on the needs. Again, we said in that case, we're looking at decentralized operations so that they would be looking for across the country.
Okay, but I think I read in the Treasury Board with Madame Fortier's mandate letter is to make sure that all departments are streamlined and provide help and consultation. So has anybody from Treasury Board had discussions with HUMA, has had discussions with immigration, and is that number out there, and is there a date when, you know, our constituents will be able to get their passports processed in 3 to 4 weeks like they used to?
The President of the Treasury Board has been mandated to develop, to bring forward a future of work model to ensure that the government is well equipped to deliver on services, and the location of work is part of that. But the skills strategy, ensuring that we have data and we understand the trends and the skills that are going to be required in the future to do those jobs, is part of her mandate. Now, for the very short term, I would again mention that there is a possibility to develop initiatives in the very short term to address those needs. But I don't have the details on the passports per se.
Thank you. And now we started with Mr. Johari in today's meeting, and we will end our questioning with Mr. Johari for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome back. You were dearly missed. But thank you to the minister and the officials for joining us today. I'm going to put my question to Mr. Wagner. And Mr. Wagner, if you're not the right official to respond to this, please, redirect to your other colleagues who are here. Specifically want to talk about the strategic policy review. There's been many interpretation around what the scope of this review is, and there's also many various point of views. We've had from point of views around, rationalizing the size of the government, or, as Minister said, this is not about a smaller government necessarily. It's about a much more smarter and efficient government. So, and I understand that the scope of the TBS and the responsibility of TBS is always to ensure the best use of the naturally taxpayers' money while making sure that the operation of the government is very efficient. And this is one of the reasons that I decided to join the OGGO. With my background as a management consultant, I really understand and I really embrace the work that the OGGO is doing. But can you explain how the strategic policy review, as introduced in the budget, will work toward a smarter government than run more efficiently?
I'll actually let my colleague, Madame Boudreau, answer that question. I think she's better positioned to respond to you.
Thank you for the question. So the review will ensure programs are effective on challenges like climate change, the pandemic, growing the economy. It will also adapt government to our post-pandemic, like I was explaining earlier, reality, such as digitization. Sorry about that word. It's obviously about getting value for taxpayer dollar. We're going to be focusing on priorities and making sure that we are doing them better. We're delivering the goals of sustainability. And again, words that were used in Budget 2022, it's about looking at our footprint real properly, going at travel, we're doing less and less travel, and also looking at virtual work that we have discussed today with you.
Thank you for that. So you gave us an understanding of what the scope is and what was added during 2022. Can you tell us a little bit about the process and what are you trying to achieve through that process? So the steps that you're going to go through the process and the end goal that you're trying to achieve.
So if we look at the stream 1, it's about ongoing review of programs. So every year the process will be to select a thematic that we're going to be looking at and making sure that there is no duplication, making sure that we are investing where we should. I can give you some examples as well.
That would be great.
Okay. So we can look, for example, at housing, le logement. So we know it's a big priority. Food security could be also another example. High-speed internet, innovation, skills, youth, programming. So every year we're going to be adding a thematic that we're going to be looking at, obviously in concert with departments and agencies, and to make sure that we have a good understanding of those programs comprehensively. So we're going to be doing horizontal reviews, not only one department by department, but looking at the spectrum.
Okay. As part of that review, do you look at the benchmarks? Do you look at, the targets that you had set and whether those targets has been received, i.e. the departmental results?
Yes, indeed, we're going to be looking at that. We're going to be working with external partners. We're going to people that really know the subject matter that we're looking at to make sure that we have looked at all the angles of a specific program.
Okay, thank you. I got about 20 seconds, which I yield back to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Johari. And with that, I would like to to thank our witnesses today for being with us for the whole time, and Madame Boudreau and Mrs. Girard and Mrs. Cahill, Mr. Wagner, and I did see Mr. Greeno there. I saw him at the last second or so, and Ms. Tattersall and Ms. LaHoy. And I appreciate you all being with us today, and thank you for that. I'd like to thank Mr. Johari for filling in as Vice Chair and in the position of the Chair to start the meeting. And as well, I'd like to thank the interpreters and our technicians for all the work they're doing, our analysts, and also, as you may have noticed, we have a third clerk here who's filling in for us because our clerks have so many different tasks to do. And so thank you, Alexander, for being with us, and thank you. And with that, I declare the meeting adjourned.